And so I'm thinking about the idea about what happens when we put love at the forefront of our thinking. Not something that's in the back, but actually something that is at the forefront. And the reason why I think it's a good time to talk about that is that this time of year, you know, with Halloween, the other thing that is real great opportunity is to think about how many masks we wear. And what happens when we wear a mask and it's not in alignment with who we are. So we can play with masks, which is what we do on Halloween. Like, I'm just going to pretend to be something completely different, or I'm going to reveal a part of my character, perhaps, that, you know, I keep hidden. It's usually one way or another. My daughter loved the idea of being a witch. So she was a witch, I think, for 5 years in a row, which was great for me as a mom because it meant one costume. And she just kept getting bigger. Unfortunately, I'd made it cape size. And so it just kept getting shorter until she couldn't wear it anymore. And so it was perfect, absolutely perfect. So I was very grateful that I had a daughter who really wanted to be a witch. And she went from the mischievous witch to the naughty witch to the cute witch. She did, you know, as many different versions of it as she possibly could between the age of about 3 and 8, I think it was. So it was pretty adorable. But so we can use masks in all kinds of different ways. But where we get into challenges is when we put on a certain kind of mask when underneath we actually don't feel that way at all. There's a disconnect between who we are and who we wish to be. Having said that, there's nothing to feel guilty about. Because how is it that we grow? We grow from the place of recognizing who we want to be and allowing that to be a leading idea. And then with time, we embrace that idea and start to incorporate that into us in such a way that we actually start to outpicture that. So we're always in some way or another, ever so slightly or more so, out of alignment with who we really think we are inside. Now, if we really think that we are not that great inside, then our big thing is to figure out, actually, you are that great. And we start working from there. So we always start working towards the good, no matter what's happening. But I know for me that there were times when I was working in an office situation and I was putting this stuff into practice, right? I was a new student at that time of this teaching, still learning what the principles were, still trying to figure out, okay, so I believe this and my thoughts create my reality. How come my reality is so crappy? Why is my work environment so bad? Why, crap, right? And the truth is, now that I've got some distance from it, is that, you know, when we meet people, we're all a bit of a facade, right? I'm a bit of a facade. Everybody else is a little bit of a facade, to one degree, as I said, or another. And so what was happening was our energies were bumping up against each other. And I hadn't yet got developed enough in my own spiritual practice to understand that I was maybe contributing a little bit to that energy because I hadn't really come in alignment with what I really wanted. I knew I wanted to be this, but the truth was underneath, I wasn't really living from that place. So I'm going to just give you a little bit of a quote here from Ernest Holmes because I like going back to him. He says, "Man will deliver himself from sickness and trouble in the exact proportion to his discovery of himself and his true relationship to the whole." So I'll read that one more time because he's so, wordy. Let me just see if I can find it again. "Man will deliver himself from sickness and trouble in the exact proportion to his discovery of himself and his true relationship to the whole." So in other words, I needed to do a little bit more work, right? Whoever said this life here was going to be easy? Whoever said, oh yeah, it just gets handed, you figure it out and then it's just handed to you. And if you have really figured it out, it really is just handed to you. That's the truth of it. That's when you know that you have ingested and embodied something. So if you've always had issues, and we've all got our Achilles heel, right? Always had issues in one area, and you used to always have issues over here, but you know what? That's so weird. That never happens to me anymore. That never happens to me anymore. You learned something. You lived, you shifted, you are now living from a place of a higher consciousness than when it was that you were having that other experience. So I just want to share with you something that happened to me this week, which was really great, and it's got just a little bit of story behind it. I'm renewing my passport right now, and I'm very grateful that we have 10-year passports, because goodness knows, I'm really grateful. I'm excited about seeing how young I look when I have to renew it the next time. It'll be great. But somehow they think they'll recognize me, so I'm very happy about that. So in the process of doing that, you have to find two people who are willing. It used to be it had to be like a doctor or a spiritual person or something like that who knew you and could verify and say, I've known you long enough that yes, this person is who they say they are. And they can't be relatives, they can't be the person that you're married to, etc. So I had to find two people. And so I asked my dear friend Kelly to be one of them, which was lovely. And you have to know them for at least 2 years. So Kelly was on the one side of the spectrum. So she and I have known each other for almost 3 years now. Definitely 3 years now. Yeah, absolutely 3 years now. And the one on the other side of the spectrum, when I counted up all of the years, 39 years. 39 years. I won't tell you when we met, but it was a long time ago. And so this week I had a chance to get together with him. And you can imagine, 39 years, there's been a few facades in that time, right? There's been a few times when we've showed up in different kinds of ways and presented ourselves to each other in different kinds of ways because we're trying out life, we're getting married, we're having kids, now our relationships are challenging, we're going through that experience, and we, et cetera, right? Just doing life, trying to figure out what we're going to be when we grow up. And this particular time, we were just both in a really, really great place. A really great place at the same time. That doesn't always happen in 39 years when you only see each other every, like once every 6 months and sometimes even once every 2 years. And what I realized is that no matter what's happening for us, we have a foundational belief that we are there for each other through everything. Love is the foundational belief of this relationship. It is absolutely unconditional. It doesn't mean we're not disappointed in each other sometimes. It doesn't mean that we don't even perhaps have arguments sometimes. But what it means is we never move off that place. Now, we've tested this a lot. And, in the beginning of any friendship, you're bound to be testing it a lot, trying to figure out, well, do we even like the same stuff? And honestly, because we're of the opposite sex, that presents a lot of problems. Partners sometimes don't like that, right? We got married. Sometimes partners don't like the fact that you've got a best friend that's of the opposite sex. So now you've got to figure out how you're going to dial through that one. Can you keep the relationship? Do you need to change it in some kind of way so that it's acceptable? What are you going to do to honor the partner that you're with and still maintain that relationship? So there was some challenging years in there where we were trying to figure out our footing, right? And I got divorced. Oh, now that's going to be a problem because he's still married and I'm divorced. So, now we go through another layer again. So there, you're renegotiating and recalibrating the whole time. But the foundational principle is always there. So I want to tell you a little bit of a story about a couple of these stories. And I can't tell you exactly where this particular story came from, because we have a Centers for Spiritual Living does a sharing of story talk ideas throughout the year. And normally they put who wrote the story at the top so I can give appropriate credit. And this is a really good story. So I want to give credit, but they didn't. And then I did a bunch of Google searches and I can't find it. So maybe whoever it is wrote it themselves. I don't know. But I just want you to know I didn't write it. Came from somebody else. So this is, and so if any of you recognize the story, please tell me and then I'll know. So this is a story of two people called Jacob and Samuel. And they're really, really good friends. And they live, though, in two different countries. And they've been friends for many, many years. And the country that one of them lives in is a country that's got some challenges. It's not easy to get in and out of the country. Some people think that they're they're on the edge of war, and it's just a very difficult place to be in. And so Jacob ends up going to visit Samuel. And what happens is before he actually gets a chance to meet Samuel, what ends up happening is somebody sees him, and for whatever reason, it's not clear in the story, they think that he's a spy. And he gets captured. And he gets put into prison. He has no way of getting a hold of his family. And they say he has no way of defending himself. I don't even think it must be some really extreme regime, because they're not giving him any opportunity. And it's like, you know what, you're just going straight to the gallows. So I don't know what era this is, but it could be many centuries ago, right? So he's got some time to think about this. And he realizes, I honestly, I've done nothing. I just came here to see my friend who I dearly love, and now I'm in the gallows. I guess I just need to accept that this is my fate at this particular time. So, of course, in this community where everybody is gathered, they like to make a spectacle of these particular types of occurrences. Set an example and make it really obvious that we take this seriously. So they've built the scaffolding, and they take him up to this particular area, and they march him up the stairs to where he's going to be hanged. And just at that moment, the person who's going to, I don't know if it was a priest or something, because sometimes it was religious people that did this kind of thing, they asked if there was anybody there who had anything to say. And a hand gets shot up, and he says, I'm his friend. I'm his friend. I've been waiting for him. I've been waiting for him. And he is my friend. He absolutely is. There's no question about it. You should release him. So they said, I can't release him. How do I know that that's just not a story and he's just not going to come back? He says, okay, you release him. Give him 30 days. I will sit in his place for those 30 days so he can go back, say goodbye to his family, do what he needs to do, and he'll come back. And so the friend stays for those 30 days and says, I'll take this time. So now he's in the same boat. And the day comes, the 30th day comes, and no sign of his friend. Absolutely no sign. He's not showing up. And then what happens is he does show up right at the last moment, and he says, I'm here. Do not harm my friend. I'm here to receive my own punishment. And there was Jacob making his way through the crowd. He was rushing to his own hanging. It's crazy. And the people in the crowd cheered and clapped their hands. And the king, okay, so it was a king, it wasn't a minister. The king was so touched by the great loyalty of the two friends that he said, because of your true friendship, I will pardon the stranger. He may go free. And then turning to Jacob and Samuel, the king added, there's only one thing I ask. Let me be the third friend of the two of you. That is love leading the way. That is what it means when we have love lead the way. Instead of thinking that it's owed to us, instead of thinking that it needs to come from somewhere else, external to us, and we get to receive it, it actually is something that we put out there ourselves. We created ourselves, and we live by it as a fundamental principle of who we are. So any conversation that we're in, if your mantra could be love leads the way, how do you think your conflicts are going to show up? Before you open your mouth, love leads the way. Before you say a word, love leads the way. I was listening to a meditation with Thich Nhat Hanh this morning. He's a Buddhist leader from Vietnam. Some of you might be familiar with him. And he said, your daughter comes to you, and maybe you haven't seen her for some time. And what does she really want from you? What does she really want? It might look like she wants a whole bunch of things, but all she really wants is she wants you to love her. That's it. Nothing else. It's pretty simple. And so being able to be present with that, really present with that, not kind of sort of, yeah, I just give you a quick hug, whatever. Really present with that. And then it doesn't almost even matter what you say or what you do. That connection will be there, and you will know that. You will embody that, and it'll be absolutely clear. Absolutely clear. I'm going to give you one more story. No attribution either for this one, unfortunately, but it's a quicker one, so I don't feel so guilty about it. This one is a little story of a woman who's in the hospital. And she's treating somebody who's got infected sores, trying to cleanse them, clean them up. And some casual person going by makes a comment like, couldn't give me $1 million to do that. And the woman looks up and she says, you couldn't give me $1 million either. That's who we're called to be. We're called to be these amazing, beautiful, incredible living lights. And we can do it. In some way, we're already doing it, because otherwise we wouldn't even be here. We wouldn't even be here. We would have, been off doing something else. We're on this planet for a reason. And we've all seen how the planet is. It needs every one of us to be living from this place. If everybody we met, every person that we connected with was also living from this place, can you imagine that? Pretty amazing. It'd be pretty amazing. And so we do our best. We make our mistakes and we try again. We do our best. We do the best that we can with what we have, with the information that's available. We try and make ourselves as conscious as we can. And just, try it. Just try it. Love leads the way. And allow that love to lead the way. And your path will be so obvious. You can't miss it. Thank you so much. Namaste.